Dr. Caroline Abiazien, and my name is Dr. Felicia Ikebude. We also have our members who are here: Rita, Dr. Ngozi, Sister Stella, you're here. You're all welcome. Oh, Pastor Loveth, I'm sorry, and Dr. Shonowo, she's here. I'm sorry. Yes, we're here to bring this message to our community about domestic violence, how it impacts us as individuals, as family, and our children. Thank you. We're going to be using the PowerPoint. All right. Next slide, please. Okay. So the presentation is domestic violence. I talked a little bit why we're bringing this, just to be aware. And there are different types of domestic violence. It could be physical, emotional. It could be, a way financial, like deprivation. Those are ways that people can be, challenged or impacted by way of domestic violence. And in our slide, you're looking at the different levels of domestic violence. The tolerable level is when things are happening between two people and one of the couple or partners will say, I can deal with this. Maybe the other person might change. I can bear this. And they remain and not say something. The toxic level is when it's getting out of hand. At that point, there is a boiling water that's about to explode, and people are saying, what will I do? What can I do? Who do I talk to? This is actually the time that you really need to run and get help. Actually, during that tolerable level, if you can, that's when you want to try and see how you can, manage it better or find a way to have a solution to that problem. The traumatic level is when already the event has happened, where somebody is being punched, where somebody is being deprived of, maybe money, being abused and, physically or otherwise, even sexually abused. This is when the person doesn't actually have any remedy. This is when that critical moment when everything is done and the person is okay. I should have done something before now, but the event has already occurred. Some people are alive to tell the story at this point. Other people are not, and we hear that all the time. And recently, something like that happened somewhere in Texas, Florida, yeah. Next slide, please. The consequences of domestic violence, in an abusive relationship. So, environment. So, relationship consequences. Two people are together. They are not living like they should, like partners. They are living like strangers. Everybody is doing their own thing. If they are living in the same house, they are like roommates. But, yeah, no connection, no emotion, no communication. So that's that. The financial impact is when you live, we all live in America, right? And we work together, we pay our bills together as couples. But if one person is taking responsibility for that, that impacts will be too much on whoever the burden is on. Academic consequences when it comes to especially our children. We are the mirror with which our children see. When things are happening at home, you think your kids are not seeing. They are seeing everything that's happening. And the child who is an A grader before starts going down in the academics, something is wrong. These are consequences of domestic violence. Health consequences, when there is no peace in the house. For example, the woman or the man, by the way, I should say that domestic violence goes on both sides. It's not only the woman that's abused all the time. Sometimes some women abuse their spouses, the men. The men are also being abused sometimes. So it goes both ways. But when we hear domestic violence, our mind goes straight to the woman. Men are also being abused. So the health consequences include things like people having elevated blood pressure because of the stress. Some people who are prone to having things like diabetes, it brings it on faster because they are not eating right, they are stressed, and things are happening. Things like insomnia, lack of sleep, a lot of people have that problem. Because when your mind is not at peace, you can't sleep. You know, other things include anxiety, fear. You're going home and your heart is pounding because you don't know what will happen when you get home. You can't communicate with each other. The psychological consequences include things like depression, which is common, anxiety, which is common, and a lot of people also have thought about killing themselves. They say they are lonely, isolation. They don't want to talk about it to people because, oh, I don't want people to know what's happening in my house. And they keep it up to themselves, bottle it up, and they are dying inside. That's psychological. Social consequences include being isolated. They don't want to share what's going on. They don't want people to know, so they keep it to themselves, stay at home, and bear all the burden to themselves. I will stop that because of time. Next slide, please.
So having said that, let us take a look at the impact of domestic violence on the children. Because as Dr. Ikebude rightly noted, this thing called domestic violence impacts everybody in the home, be it the father, the mother, and the children, even other family members that comes around to the house. It does affect them too. So with the children, what you begin to see in them is aggression. When they go to school, they cannot mix well with other kids. Even while they are at home, every little thing you do aggravates them. They get angry, they yell at parents. And that is not a good sign. Lack of trust is also part of it. These kids, because of what they are seeing at home, they don't tend to trust anybody. Even when they go outside, they don't trust nobody. The parents that are in the house, they don't even trust them. And these kids, they lack respect for authority. They are the ones that if they have to drive, they don't even mind the speed limit. If the police is stopping them, they don't even want to stop. So anything about authority, they care less. And it is a part of the impact on the children. They emulate negative influences from their peers. When they go out there, all they learn from other kids is the bad stuff. They don't want to know anything good. They learn the bad stuff. Those that are smoking, they join them in smoking. Those that they drink, they join them in drinking and doing all sorts of bad things from their peers. And lack of self-esteem, we can't leave that one behind. Because Any kid that is in a hostile home, like a place where there is domestic violence, it's not going to come out and be proud. You see them, some of them just want to stay on their own. They feel they don't want anything. It is also an impact of this domestic violence. And they are victims also of external abuse. What this means here is that this kid that is in a home that there is no peace, anywhere that kid steps into and sees an atom of love or care, given to them, they tend to fall prey to those people. So when they go outside and see anybody who says, you know what, I love you, you are a good kid, they'll fall for that person, even if that person has a bad intention for them. So let us look at the impact on the spouse, because Dr. Kebude had pointed out that domestic violence can impact the man or the woman. It's not only the man that, abuses the woman. Some women do abuse their husbands too. So this is the impact that it has on the wife. Loneliness. When there is no peace in the house, you are on your own. He comes in, he goes into the bedroom, does his own things. You are alone in the kitchen doing your own things, alone in the living room doing your own things. So loneliness is huge when it comes to domestic violence, environment. Emotional torture. These people are not just happy, suffering in silence, suffering and smiling. When they come out, they put on red lipsticks and, just show off as if all is well. But emotionally, they are tortured. They make their hair and put on beautiful clothes and smile around, but that is just not what is there. And there is also lack of mutual understanding. Obviously, people that are not working together, they are not understanding each other. Nightmares and flashbacks. They remember, oh my goodness, what he did to me yesterday, what he said to me yesterday, what she said yesterday. It gives them these flashbacks of thinking of what really went wrong yesterday and how they nearly escaped death. Self-neglect. Sometimes you begin to see the lady. This is an individual who goes to the salon, makes her hair, looks good. All of a sudden, no longer interested in any of such things, including the man too. Beards will now grow and turn white. And they are no longer going to barb, to shave, to look good. Poor performance. We all know what that can do. Those individuals who are in this kind of situation, if you see them at work in the morning, it shows. They are always on the edge. You say good morning is a problem to them. You make an assignment, a work assignment, and give it to them, they have a complaint there. So everything that has to do with poor performance at work, you are likely to see it in these individuals. Poor social interaction, same old, because they are not likely going to socialize. As we all came out here now to sit down here and hear all these beautiful lectures that were given here, they are not interested. They just want to go back home and coil into bed and cover themselves with a blanket and think about their lives. Withdrawal is also huge. They don't call family members anymore, don't call friends anymore, don't want to do anything of interest again. That is sad. And when it begins to draw closer to this, it's beginning to be very, very dangerous. And low libido. We cannot finish this without touching base here, because all what we do as husbands and wives and relationships and everything, comes from your mind and from your heart. If you're not happy, nothing is going to happen. Even if the two of you are together, it will look as if two roommates are sitting together or two lovers are standing by each other. So a chaotic environment where there is a domestic violence impacts both man and woman. The next slide is the same happens to the husband as well. So the only difference here, if you look at that slide, is that the woman will have a low libido, the man will have a high libido. And because since there is no peace in the house, women have a way of saying, I don't want, I just want to be on my own. But men, what they do is, okay, since the situation is like this, I might as well go outside and go, find me some peace out there. So, but most women don't really do that. Dr.
Yeah. So, men, we have behave like high risk behavior. They can start dating more women than usual, even though they are already doing that, because men are polygamous in nature. So when there is problem at home, that's the big excuse for them to explore outside as much as possible. Yes. So that is it. That is it.
I would love to read that study.
So self-care, the big deal. These are ways to, when people find themselves in that situation, these are little things you can do. I know somebody talked about self-care earlier today, right? Dr. Archie? Yes, healthy living. The good and adequate sleep, you can beat that. But when you're in a situation where things are not going well, it's hard. But you have to find a way to get good and adequate sleep. Healthy and nutritious meals, like the one we ate now, is very important, because the way your body heals, you can't take away food and the way your body heals. So you need good food, warm shower, mild and tolerable exercise, observe relaxation moments, take time and meditate, find time to get your own peace. When your head is full, you have to have time to be able to reflect and think. Talk to a trusted person. They say a problem shared is half solved. It may be true, it may not be true, but talk to somebody whom you trust. Vent out when it's needed. Sometimes you keep everything down there, and when it's coming out in a bad way. So think sometimes, but vent. It's okay to vent. Take time off from work if you think you cannot handle it or it might impact your job. It's rather you take out time to get some rest, relax, and come back than you are at that job and your performance is bad, you're making mistakes. Especially those of us who are in healthcare. You cannot afford to make mistakes at work. Next slide, please. They have pharmacological interventions. We're not here for treatment. We're not giving any recommendations. But you will have to talk to your doctor, your primary care doctor, who might make some referrals that someone you can see and talk to. If you're at that point where you think you need help and they might give you some medication, it has to come from a professional, a licensed person that might help you with that. Next slide, please.
So we've talked about pharmacological interventions. There is also therapy that do help. I think we sometimes neglect that area, but therapy is very important. So as an individual in this situation, try and see if you can meet with a therapist. There are resources out there for individuals you can see who can walk you through, getting a therapist that can work with you. And when you get to this therapist, please don't be an African. You say some, leave some. Be open in the conversations. Okay, because we believe that when you get to a doctor or a therapist, for example, if you say a few things, you might be leaving behind the very important things that the therapist might be using to, effectively support you. So when you talk to them, be open, be vulnerable, because that might be the beginning of your healing. So be willing to release your emotions. If you are in front of them, feel free to, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to show some emotions, show. It doesn't make you to look like a weak man or a weak woman. Tell the truth. As I said earlier on before, you need to say the truth. Don't sugarcoat anything. Don't be afraid that, oh, if I say all these things, how about if that my husband hears it? Or if my wife hears it? So tell the truth, and the truth will set you free while you are there with the therapist. So also collaborate with the therapist to identify, assess, plan, implement, and evaluate the information. Because when you give this therapist all this information, that practitioner will go back and sit down and analyze all what you guys had discussed, work with you, and create an effective plan. So that will definitely help you as an individual who came to a therapist.
So we are talking about nursing implication. We have talked about, all the possible treatment modality. No one size fits all. Every individual is different. The way they did it for Mr. A is different for Mr. B. But we are talking at the level of nurses now, right? We make sure that the patient acknowledges that there is abuse. We can't force you to say that you are being abused. You are the one that will tell us that something is happening at home, right? And we make sure that the information you give to us is kept confidential. We cannot, by any means, divulge what you talk to us about to Mr. B, because it doesn't concern them and is against the law. We can't do that. Trust. You have to trust whomever you're giving your information to, that that information is kept and that the help you need will be given to you. Also, we gently tell you that being abused is not okay. You know the level that you can take, but when it comes to a time when your life is in danger, we can tell you that we are reportable. We are mandated to report abuse. Okay, sometimes we say we keep the information, but when your life is as like your husband or your wife threatens you with a gun, and you come to me with that information, and I determine that you're telling the truth, I will tell you that I will report it. Because if something happens to you tomorrow, they will ask, did you tell somebody or So we are mandated reporter. When it comes to abuse, when it comes to elderly abuse or all that, we report it. When somebody's life is in danger. So the other thing, when we have this discussion, we'll document it, because if it's not documented, we haven't done anything. So we have to put it that you came to us, we are going to document it somewhere in your medical record. And whoever is being the person who is the abuser must not be present during that interaction with us. We can't have two of them together in the same environment. When the abuse is talking to us, the abuser must not be present. Okay.
Thank you so much. Any questions now? Because we've spent 25 minutes. 5 minutes for questions, please.
Thank you, Dr. Achibo.
And I'm just saying we can't change those things, but sometimes we can look at our culture and maybe rephrase something. We do say mental health, well-being, but we still have some word mental health there. And so when you talk about abuse, maybe we can look at it as how do we live healthfully? So healthy living, healthy relationship. So something like that. I'm not saying you should change what is in the book, but sometimes we adapt and then look at the culture or the group that you work with. How would they view this?